All right, folks, welcome back to Top Comics Pressing. Here we're going to kick off a case study on a raw copy of The Incredible Hulk number 181. And like all copies of The Incredible Hulk 181, I handle this one as an incredible copy of The Incredible Hulk number 181. Let's just get familiar with what's going on here. So first thing is first, if you check that top corner, you can see that there is several creases up there. And again, CGC is going to count that as corner bend. And there's probably going to be 1, 2, 3 creases on there, and again it's going to be the total length of all that visible white that's going to add up. Right here you're going to go ahead and you're going to be able to see some light surface wear across the top, so that's all that light white color that you can kind of see fleck through the red, and so that is going to be surface abrasion or surface wear. Right here by the Incredible Hulk's elbow there's going to be a crease, and then some of that's going to continue down on the edge. Overall, though, there's nothing too dramatic. In the raking glare, you can see that there are, let me get that to fold in on itself. There are a lot of finger bends there. So there's one between the L and the K. There's one right by the Hulk's wrist. There's one up by Wolverine's head. And so this thing definitely needs a press. And as you go down here, you can see that there's more creasing. So that's a little bit more obvious. What's a little bit harder to see is that this crease is probably going to go all the way up into that black there. So you can see it's a very faint but very real color break. And so that's all going to ding us. You'll also notice if you look in that white, there is a lot of surface dirt in there. And so there's going to be a ton to clean off. And now this, what looks like it could be a defect, is most likely a printing defect that's actually common on Hulk 181. But what is an actual defect is right through here. If you look, you can see very light reader creasing. And so that does unfortunately break color if you look at it very close through that chain right above Wolverine's kind of thumb there. And so in addition, we have a number of spine stress lines, but that's not ultimately going to be what's going to limit this book. If we flip it on over, you'll notice very quickly that there is a lot of surface dirt on this thing, really all the way around. And so this thing is going to need one heck of a solid dry clean. The bottom corner here, yeah, you can definitely see it on the staple. And again, speaking about the reader creasing, there's going to be reader creasing through there. So you can see that. That will likely break color or break the gloss. There's no color there, but if it shows in the raking glare when the CGC grader is there, it counts as a crease, which is unfortunate, but true. And what I was going to say is over here, there is a pretty big bend in that corner. So we're definitely going to have to iron that crunch out. And then we'll probably, while we're at it, iron some of the other stuff off of here, as well as this top corner. So there's a pretty big set of crunch there, and you'd expect that because that matches the crunch up here. Now, if we're looking at it, we can see that the interior doesn't have any real signs of tanning, a little bit of light yellowing, but those pages look pretty crisp, and so I would call this one a genuine white page copy. And I don't really see a reason to do any major, there's the all-important Marvel value stamp. I don't really see a reason to do a whole lot of whitening on this. It looks pretty good. We might hit the back depending on how this looks after a dry clean, but all in all, this thing's just going to need one truly epic dry clean, some light ironing, and a mega press or two. And so I'm going to go ahead and take a quick pause, get some pictures, and then we'll go ahead and start our dry cleaning process. All right, here we are back with the dry cleaning. I have my handy dandy click eraser, my Swiffer sheet, and a new piece of my Mr. Clean Magic eraser sheet. If you're wondering about all the dry cleaning supplies, just put dry cleaning supply search into the YouTube channel. There should be some there under the how-to videos for you to be able to see a video where I talk through all the different supplies. So the first thing I'm going to do here is start with the swish. And one thing I need to do that I forgot to do is just grab one of my handy dandy backer boards from over here. There we go. We're going to put that under here because this book does have an overhang, and just so that we don't crease the edge here while we're dry cleaning it, we're going to use that backer board to support, and I'm going to use my left hand finger and thumb here to support the book. There we go. We're able to get a lot of dirt off there. Just really help that white space shine. You can go over color. You just want to do it very lightly, and you don't want to dally and rub and rub and rub because you will take color off then. But definitely for these light areas, like, the swish here by his arm and over his claws, a little bit of a very light rub you can get away with without leaving any persistent damage. you hear squeaking in the background, I'll apologize for my dog who's having one heck of a good time with his toy. All right, we're gonna go up and down the spine here and try to get that. If the book shows any signs of brittleness or spine splits, you obviously want to skip this because you're going to be just stressing that spine. This one looks like it's pretty good, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. And again, I'm going to go right over the 25-cent stamp in here and get all of that nice light surface dirt off. And now we get the fun of doing the big Hulk right on the front cover. And I'm going to start with a little bit right up top here above the yellow Marvel Group banner. It's easy to forget about that, and it's even easier to tag the edge or rip it. And so again, I'm using that backer board to help support the open edge. Nice, help all that out. All right, and so here we are in the Hulk box, and this is just going to come off real nice and easy here with the eraser, which is the beautiful thing about light surface dirt is you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to really rip into it. Of course, the Incredible here needs a light dry clean, and again, I'm not going to worry about avoiding the red. I'm just going to go over it very light, and with the dry cleaning, again, the goal is to get 95–80%. You'll see that there's not a whole lot of red in there. It's not like the eraser all of a sudden looks red from ripping ink off. There might be the ever so slightest tinge of pink, but nothing that's obvious, and just gets most of the dirt off to help that white color come on through, and that's really all we're going for. Who doesn't love this? If people complain about the sound, I guarantee you that it comes through a lot more loud on the headphones than anything I can hear in person. It's something with the Apple headphones I use. I use AirPods to record, and you can barely hear it in person. For whatever reason, those things pick up certain tones better than others, and they're just crazy that way. Almost done here with our Hulk. Again, I always start about 2/3 down the comic and rub right off of it there. Helps you see what's left and what's not. You can see that we did get most of it, but sometimes it's really hard to see through all those eraser bits, and so sometimes cleaning up and going back. Again, I haven't been pushing very hard, just kind of gently been rubbing that eraser over the top. This is definitely going to be a 2 to 3 fold over kind of a clean on this one. Just a lot of surface dirt. If I hold that up now, again, when I pick this up, I'm picking it up center so that it's balanced this way, and I'm picking it up a few inches in so that I'm not, putting any spine stress lines on there. But you can see now after that dry clean, all that surface dirt is off of there, and it looks just so much better. So that's a really big improvement. All right, I'm sure we're going to need that backer board. And while it's up in the air, let's just clean our space. Clean our space. There we go. You can't see me doing it, but I shake that Swiffer sheet off just to make sure as many of the eraser bits as possible fall off. All right, this is the part, especially over the yellow and the red, where the Mr. Clean eraser sheet comes in handy. I really like these Mr. Clean eraser sheets. Here you go. So the thin eraser ones, that I rip them into smaller pieces. A lot of people say that these completely destroy the comic books. I think what they're doing is rubbing too hard. And so this is my Ouija board method is what I call it, where I'm going to put my fingers on there and I'm not going to push down with any force. I'm just going to let that thing roll right across the surface. And especially on the yellow, that's the lightest surface clean I've been able to come up with. across the bright colors like that. This thing also works great on corners, and so while we're there, let's do the corners right now. And corners are a perilous spot, especially when there's this much surface dirt. And I like this on the corners because you can just stroke right off the edge. And I kind of do it as a three prong. So I'll do this way, and then kind of add a 45-degree right off the edge. That does a pretty good job. There is a nastier fingerprint right here, so we'll have to get to that here in a minute. We'll use some Comic Clean and hopefully hit that with a little bit of a dab of soap and then rub it off. A little bit more of this right in here. Try to focus on some of the dirt that's in there. Again, if you do push hard with this, or if you stay doing it too long, you will rub color off. Try to stay between my finger and thumb on my left hand and try to go kind of parallel to the edge. If you're in a big open spot, I try to keep the eraser kind of vertical. As you get closer to the edge, I try to angle it so I can see where the eraser's at. There is an insane amount of crud on this one to clean up. There's a little bit of a light stain I've revealed down here. You can see that, but right there's a little bit of a light stain. Real small and real light, so on a book like this that already has significant creasing, it won't move the grade much, if at all. We can look and see if there's any matching. Yes, there's a little bit of a dot on the inside that kind of matches. Not much though. So. Again, you can go over that blue box without getting too paranoid, but again, really light, and you don't want to sit there and dally and rub on it forever. Same here as you get close to the red and go over the text. That's the part where we're going to want our backer board back here. Okay, there we go. See, it's quite a chore in here, and this is going to be a light oil stain in here. So if I grab this and lighten it up, you can see this whole area is going to be a little bit more of a stain, and to me it looks like an oil stain. So there's probably a little bit on in there. This might come off with some bled O work. I'll have to check with the owner to make sure they want it. I wouldn't do the bled O for whitening's sake, but it might be able to just carefully zap that area. And some of this is going to be really, really stuck on dirt that I don't think is going to come off, even with the dry clean. And that happens. You gotta be okay. Alright, had a minor interruption there. Keep going. Right about in the same spot. This whole section up here to go. You can see it's tedious. I mean, it just takes time. It's not rocket science, it's just slow and tedious. And there's plenty there to work on. Having done those corners in advance comes in handy. Makes that area a lot easier to compensate with. See how this thing looks now here if we shake it off. There's so much debris. Oops. So you're throwing pieces all over the place. As much as we can. Go. Shake it out. Slowly throwing my shoulder out and wiping this table so much. Alright, go that way. This way. There's a little bit more staining too down here on the bottom edge that I didn't appreciate while I was dry cleaning, but if you check it out right there, there's a little bit of a tide line. There's a little bit more down there, and we have some yellowing up here. Doesn't look as bad when it's close up, but you know, right when we flip that over, that whole area was just disgusting. There's still a little bit of dirt in there, so we should probably go hit that back up. This is the part over here where I don't think it'll get any better. I rubbed that pretty good, and I think that's just stuck. We can take a little bit of the absorbing sheet here and just try. Sometimes these do a little bit better on the deeper dirt. If you go too far or too hard with this, you'll rip right through the gloss. So that is to be avoided. Again, dry cleaning is definitely a take what you can get kind of sport. Do not push. Will regret it. Lessons learned. I'll save your comic books by telling you not to push it too far. So, all right, I'm gonna see if the owner wants me to hit this with a bled O. I think I could be convinced to do so. these tide lines down here, I'm not so convinced they're going to come out. But we'll see what they want and give it a go. There's not enough mineralization in here to be worth a spot hop. So yeah, we'll have to check that out and see. I'll let you know what I do here in a minute though. All right, folks, we're going to take another look at this Hulk. Now, the owner did indeed want it to get hit with a little bit of blue LED treatment, and so I ended up actually only doing one treatment on the front cover, partially because it already had that surface damage we called out early, and so I don't want to make that look any worse by slightly deteriorating the ink, you know, right where it's super thin color up there, because, you know, these patches are mostly rubbed off color, and so we don't want to do anything crazy there. Also, washed out colors is one of the signs that a book has been cover cleaned, and so we want to be very mindful of that. On the back here, that yellow patch cleaned up super nice, so I think the owner will hopefully be rewarded for that. And then down here on the bottom, you know, those tide lines I think went mostly away. You know, it looks a lot better down there on those edges. And so I think all in all, that bled treatment really helped this one out. You'll notice I'm using an abandoned CGC slab here as my carrying case. We're going to slide that down. We're going to do some ironing here, and I'm going to get this thing situated with a magazine backer board at the center fold. And so again, I've got my hand kind of splayed open underneath to really support the spine. And as long as it's dangling there and well supported, we're all right. And we're just gonna fold that on over. The places that we really wanted to hit was that back corner, but as long as I'm here anyway, I'm gonna try to hit some of these light patches with just a touch of just a hit of iron. The tools here again are gonna be our non-stick parchment paper. It's important to get parchment paper, not wax paper. Wax paper, again, will melt on the iron, and that would be very bad if you wax coated your Hulk 181. Parchment paper I prefer over SRP paper because it is moisture permeable, but it is also non-stick. So that to me is kind of the sweet thing to do right here. We are going to utilize our Hanger 9 iron. I'm going to have that set right below the 2 there on the dial. And then I have a cotton round off camera that you can't see, which has been misted with water. So I keep one of these, you know, hairspray bottles full of just water, and I just missed that. And so it's pretty saturated at the moment. I'm actually going to squeeze it over my garbage can to try to get out some of the super excess moisture, so you can see it there on my hand and on my glove. And so we want to just make sure we don't get that on the comic book. Put that down. I'm going to wipe those gloves on my t-shirt just to get off as much of the excess moisture as I can. Then we're going to start. And you know, what I'm basically going to do here is just look for areas that look particularly kind of screwed up. And so there is some down here on the bottom edge. And just give that kind of a 3 or 4 wipe there. We don't really want there to be any humidity buildup or water droplets. What we want to do is just use that cotton round to transfer a little kiss of humidity to the paper fiber. And then we're going to use the, you know, moisture or steam generated from that to transfer into the comic and just add a little bit of shock to the comic book. So again, most paper is made predominantly of cellulose. Cellulose is a glucose polymer. Glucose has a whole bunch of hydroxyl functional groups on it. From a chemistry standpoint, those hydroxyl functional groups hydrogen bond to each other or to water. And what we're going to do here is simply use that hit of steam to break some of those intermolecular hydrogen bonds, and that might sound destructive, but they reform pretty quickly. And so the water is going to go in, kind of mix them all up, and then let them rearrange. And so that's kind of what we're doing for that process. If you want like a little kid playground kind of version of that, by the way, that reader crease over here we're going to hit with a little kiss of this too. But if you had all of your kids on a playground all lined up, you know, and somebody, what is it, Red Rover, where they run through the line of kids, and then, you know, if somebody busts through, you just kind of reform the chain, and that's basically all we're doing here. It's not going to do anything genuinely destructive. It's just kind of a reset on the connections. The destructive part is if you inadvertently break intramolecular bonds. Those are the ones that you don't want to break. All right, there's a little bit of a bulge there between the H and the L. And I'm using the raking glare of my big light hanging out here. So the spotlight to my left is just a ring light I bought off of Amazon. It's nothing too fancy. I use a desk lamp from IKEA for all of my photos in the other room. And the spotlight here is just a regular old, you know, ring light. Nothing crazy. It was like 10 bucks or 15 bucks. It's kind of fun. You can cycle a bunch of colors. So, all right. The really light finger bends will come out when we do the normal press. It's really only those deep finger bends that we're worried about. And then we're going to do a bunch over here on the open edge. Now, on that open edge, I'm going to go dig into some cardstock and another sheet of SRP paper. I have a pile of supplies off camera that I will use for a bunch of this stuff. We want to support that open edge to make sure we're not ironing it like literally over the page. And if you put anything under the cover, you obviously don't want it to stick or melt into it. And so we're going to put that sheet of SRP paper under that cover. Excuse the hiccup. And then we're just going to do some light work down here on the side. And yes, we will get to that bottom corner. And you can see the rippling here. That's all the area off the cover, because the cover actually adds a lip. And if you're expanding and contracting, there's only so much expanding and contracting it can do. The rippling itself is not a big deal, but you want to make sure you pause and kind of reset it, because if you go too far, you will rub those ripples into the comic as they start to fold over. And so, as you see me do this, I'm always just kind of flipping around that SRP paper, or the parchment paper on top. And the reason for that is I'm just looking for patches that don't look like they have big creases kind of balled into them. That's looking a lot better over there on the open edge. So I'm pretty jazzed about that. We'll do one more hit. That's just the coating under the iron. You get this little bit of black flakes, which is another reason why I like having it on top of there. What's left to me looks like it's actually creases. So again, you're never going to be able to undo creases with the ironing. As soon as that paper is damaged, it's damaged. All right, for this bottom corner, what we're going to do is jam our cardstock in there as far as we can without really perturbing the staples, and that's just going to add a little bit of buffer there to try to push it out from the inside. And I'm just going to slide the SRP paper under the cover as tight to the corner as I can get it. And again, if you jam too much in there, so I know a lot of people like to put backer boards under the center, or under the front cover, or under the back cover, you're going to risk some spine splits and some damage on that. So I don't recommend putting anything under the covers that are bigger than cardstock. And we're also going to try to stay away from that staple, and so I'm being mindful of that. Just center this view here so you can get a little bit better of an angle. I'm just going to add a little bit of pressure, not much, and just kind of gently iron it down away from that corner. So that got most of the pop out. And there's usually a little bit of a ridge where we've ironed from the cardstock because we're applying more local force than a press would. And so I'm just going to go back without that. I still have the magazine backer board at centerfold, and that's the support from the staple. And now that we've popped it out, we're just going to flatten down everything along that spine. So it's going to be kind of a two-parter. Now, you'd never be the wiser. There still is a very clear spine stress line, so that was damage. And that's going to be permanent, but we're going to get that deep crease out, and that's all we're trying to do right here. So, nothing crazy there. Looks a lot better. Let's see here. And I'm just going to try to scan around to see if I see any other really deep finger bends. I mean, there's a lot of light creasing. I might do one little patch right up here on the bottom of the red. That looks like it's actually a tear, so I'm not going to fix that. We'll do one little kiss here on the bottom of the red triangle. Yep, and I don't know why, but when I use this thing, the temperature always seems to get hotter as you go. And so if you hear any crackling or sizzling or see any steam, it's time to turn it back down. I very rarely try to go above a 2 on covers. So on interior pages, it's a little bit more forgiving, but on covers, you definitely don't want to go above a 2. On moderns, you don't want to go above a 1.5 because you'll actually melt or fuse the interior pages. All right, check that out. We're gonna pop this beast in the press, and hopefully we'll come on back with some really beautiful before and after pictures, as well as a nice crispy copy. All right, here is our post-press look at this incredible copy of the Incredible Hulk number 181. All in all, this thing looks incredibly transformed from what it looked like only a couple of days ago. The back corner looks awesome. All the light wrinkles and finger bends are out of this, so I took a bunch of pictures. We'll post those on Facebook and Instagram, assuming I remember when the video here drops. But of course, we have to wait for this thing to get sent off to CGC for its owner. And the way I always dial these up for CGC, particularly the higher value books like a Hulk 181, is to put it front to front in a full back Mylar. So the sleeve it's in right now is a E. Gerber Silver Age size, and then I put that in a Golden Age one, and this Golden Age one is a reuse, but it's the same size and the same principle applies, and that way if the corner gets dinged over here, that outer board is going to take the brunt of the impact. You know, if somebody squeezes this or monkey grips it, there's boards on both sides, so you're not going to put a finger bend into it. And so all in all, this is kind of my preferred way to send these books on out. So keep your fingers crossed for the owner of this one as this thing gets shipped on out to CGC, and I'll be back with the conclusion here for what for you will only be a few seconds, but for me will be weeks, if not months. And so really do keep those fingers crossed. All right, folks, CGC is back to us with a verdict. The jury has returned a score of an 8.0 white pages on this now incredible copy of the Incredible Hulk number 181. Really couldn't be happier with that given where we started, and the client said that that exceeded their expectations. They were hoping for a 7 or a 7.5, and so hitting that 8.0 here is pretty nice by me. Again, I think it's a really nice example of what can be done with books that don't have major creases and just have a lot of stuff that needs some facelifting to, you know, take a book that's over 40 years old, 50 years old? 50 years old, and give it a little bit of a nice facelift. So that's pretty awesome from my point of view. Hopefully you enjoyed the video overall and are willing to give the video one heck of a thumbs up. Smash the subscribe button down below. YouTube tells me more than half the people that watch the videos are not subscribers, so a subscribe button somewhere down here. Just click that one for me. I'll try to post pictures of this one on Facebook and Instagram when this video drops, which is pretty awesome, and be sure to check out the pictures there. Other than that, take care and keep on collecting what you enjoy.